All right. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the RocketMSP Podcast. I'm Steve Taylor. I'm your host. And today I'm joined by Brian and Josh from Nuvolex. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, I guess first I want to just get this out of the way. My dog bit me on accident because my hand landed in her mouth while we were tugging with a rope. So, I'm out of Band-Aids, so I had to get creative with like cloth and tape. So, if it looks like my finger's going to fall off, it could. So we'll get that out of the way. So Nuvolex, talk to me about what exactly you guys do.
Well, I guess the way we would describe it is we're an ISV, first of all. So we're a software vendor. What we built is a platform that has the goal of heavily automating provisioning, user provisioning, deprovisioning, and daily administration. Today it's with the Microsoft Cloud Stack, but we plan to go well beyond that. And it's really targeting, service providers, SIs, as well as enterprise. So a number of different groups, and primarily focused on the service desk. So what we're trying to do is provide those service desk admins a platform that unifies administration across these SaaS workloads or cloud workloads, but also unifies administrator access, controlled access rights. And we're doing this all in a single pane of glass admin portal. So that's, I guess, maybe the elevator or 30-second description of what we do.
All right. So how does it work?
So basically, let's just use the case of an MSP. If there's an MSP out there that has a service desk, has a bunch of admins who are managing the Microsoft stack, what they would do is reach out to us, connect with us. We give them a demo of the platform, usually sign up for a trial. And then when they sign up for the trial, they basically go to our platform, create an account, create admins, onboard tenants, assign access rights, and off you go. So I think part of what we do, and we kind of take a lot of pride in, is not only providing a heavy amount of service automation into a single pane of glass across cloud workloads, but also a platform that we think is pretty easy to use and very quick to get up and running. So you don't have to do a bunch of customization. You don't have to do a bunch of scripting. It's kind of an old school terminology. I'd say it's kind of a bit of a shrink wrap, out of the box, multi-service admin portal.
Okay, but aren't there, a bunch of multi-service admin portals? However, I think I just jumbled up the words. I don't even know. Aren't there a bunch of these 365 admin solutions already out there? I can think of like MSP Magic and Simian Cloud, and I'm sure there's another half a dozen that I've already forgotten about that I've probably interviewed and I've already can't think of them. So what makes yours special?
Well, there are a number of guys out there doing quote unquote Office 365 management, which is a very broad term. I mean, what is management? It encompasses a lot of components. I think where we focus is on combination of, around user lifecycle management. We're not really a tool that gets involved in, monitoring and alerting, heavy reporting. There's a number of other components that fall into that category of management. And all we try to focus on is really provisioning, deprovisioning, and daily administration. And we do that through extensive amount of service automation. And also, we have the ability on our platform also to manage hybrid identity environments. So if you have an organization managing that is using a lot of SaaS workloads, M365 Azure, but also their identities are residing on-prem in AD, we can concurrently manage those two environments in a single pane of glass. You don't have to log into AD. You don't have to do any of that. I mean, it's just a platform that through a bunch of button clicks, you can do a pretty heavy amount of service automation. So it's ultimately speed of remediation is what we're targeting, right? The faster that I can remediate a service request that comes into the service desk, the more customers I can handle, the more money I make, right? So we're trying to really optimize delivery, service delivery. There are a lot of guys who do a number of other components that are more targeted towards maybe other parts of the organization, of the IT organization. Simeon Cloud has carved out a very specific space that they focus on. We have a lot of overlap. We already do a lot of things they do. You got guys like Jim over at SaaS Alerts and focused on monitoring, alerting. You've got a number of other guys out there doing different components of quote unquote management, but it's a pretty big category. So that's why you're probably seeing a number of folks out there. Not everybody takes the same approach. We don't believe that you should have to create a bunch of scripts and just build the environment from scratch and have to do a bunch of engineering work. We believe it's like out of the box, fire it up within an hour. You should be up and running and managing your customers. I think we do that as good, if not better, than anybody.
All right, I like what I hear there. So let's talk a little bit about you and Nuvolex for a moment here. So, if somebody were to look at your LinkedIn, I mean, at a first glance, it looks like, oh, this guy can't keep a job, but because you've been all over the place, right? But I think but it looks like what's actually happening is, you're on all these advisory boards and you do investing and all kinds of really cool stuff, and you almost seem like a serial entrepreneur. Which is actually really cool. So if when people look and see just a big list of, oh wow, 2007 to 2009, 2009 to 2011, but I think something bigger is actually happening here. So can you fill us in on your actual background? Because I'm sure it's going to make a lot more sense than when we just look at your LinkedIn.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been involved in a number of startups over the years as an advisor. I've been on boards. My prior life, I built a corporate venture fund. Candidly, though, I'm not from the IT industry. This company got started by accident. I had never had a plan to go build a multi-SaaS management platform. It completely just happened, one discussion, one evening at dinner. So, and we, started this quite a while ago. And, basically the short story is I had a buddy of mine, or really is one of my wife's friends, her husband was an MSP in the Bay Area. And he invited me to dinner one night. And he was telling me about, as a managed service provider, he was telling me about how he makes a living delivering managed services, putting people on site, reselling hardware and software. And he started talking to me about, the cloud is coming, and then when that comes, everything changes. And if I don't figure out how to optimize delivery around all things Microsoft Cloud beyond, he goes, I'm going to be out of business. It's not just me. There's a bunch of guys that are going to go out of business. So they have to completely transform their industry in order to be relevant. And it was literally that conversation where I started asking questions, and I got interested in their space. And like I said, I didn't even come from the space, but it was more about understanding that there was a huge potential disruption in the market coming and what potentially could be a very big business opportunity. And that got me really curious. And it's just one thing led to another. And I just kept working with him. And eventually, we went from helping him trying to build a cloud service provider back before it was even a term, back in late 2014, early 2015, to the point where I asked him, I said, look, this problem that you're going to have, is this every MSP or every service provider across the globe going to deal with the same problem? Or is it just unique to you? And he said, everybody who's in this business is going to have this problem. And I told him, I said, well, I want to go build a platform to solve this problem. I'm not interested in building a cloud service provider. I want to build a platform for service providers to optimize service delivery around all things cloud, starting with Microsoft. That's how the company started. So trust me, I wasn't in the space. I had no interest in getting in this space. It wasn't on my radar. It just, it's, one of 8 billion startup stories. And that was our story. So
that's really cool. So with you starting Nuvolex, I see that, you started this, it looks like you started it, or at least started dreaming about it way back in 2011.
Yeah, that was when we started really thinking about the cloud service provider model. and
Sure.
spent 2 or 3 years going back and forth in that. And it's around that 2014, 2015 time frame that it started to crystallize that there's a bigger opportunity to go after. And quite honestly, when I started it, I didn't understand. Full disclosure, being very candid, I didn't know the space at all. I just had this concept in my head that seemed to make sense to me. And it's really when I met Josh early on. He was actually working at the MSP as an admin. And, we bumped into each other in a hall, and we started talking, and he's like, hey, what are you doing, And one thing led to another, and he got really interested in what we were doing. And I said, well, why don't you come join me? Help me build this product. And, what excited him was, he when we were talking, he said, look, I want to work with you because I know the problem that you need to solve. He says, I live this every day. I was on a service desk, managed a service desk, dealt with all the issues that need to get solved, and there's a better way of doing it than the way we do it today, so let me come help you. And I think really when Josh joined up with me is when we started to get real clarity around what we needed to go build. So then from there, it was, I got more more knowledge about the MSP community, but I was like, I think it'd be a lot sexier to go sell to enterprise, big organizations, complex, globally distributed, huge management problems. So we kind of went down that path, Josh and I, and started talking to a bunch of really large enterprises. But back then, cloud wasn't a thing for them. They weren't moving. They had all this legacy and all these governance issues, and moving to the cloud, whether it's Microsoft or whoever, it just wasn't yet on their radar. But as we spent a lot of time talking to them, what they taught us is what does it mean to automate administration? What are the kind of capabilities that you need to provide really advanced automation to make their jobs easy? And how do you manage in a hybrid identity environment? So the time we invested in that category, even though it was in some ways didn't give us the return that we wanted in terms of building an enterprise practice, it taught us some really valuable lessons on what does it mean to automate administration and control administrator access and manage in hybrid identity worlds. And all that's reflected in the platform we've built. So we kind of circled back after spending a few years just building out for that type of environment. And when we started seeing the MSP community being the kind of the early adopters, the faster movers into the cloud, we just kind of redirected our customer focus to the MSP. And that's primarily what we've been doing ever since, is taking that advanced administrative capability in all the automation and bringing it to a community that, automation matters, because at the end of the day, if I can do service remediation through extensive amount of service automation versus hiring people, I'm going to make more money. It's very clear. At the end of the day, what I have learned about this business is that, it's about the delta in how much you charge a customer to manage, whatever you're managing for them, and the cost to deliver that managed service. And you're trying to grow that gap as much as possible. And you're not going to increase margin by adding people. You do it through service automation. So that's what we do. And we've been doing it for quite some time, and that's all we've ever done. So we're not like a migration company that says, we're going to start to do management, or we were doing reporting and we're going to start to do management. The only thing we've ever done from day one is user lifecycle management, automating provisioning, deprovisioning, daily administration, starting with Microsoft, but we're going well beyond that. And the hard part of what we do is not about integrating the workloads. It's about that platform we've built. That's taken us years to build, because as you'll see in the demo, there's a tremendous amount of complexity into the platform under the hood, but you'll see it in just the things we do to automate, administration. So yeah, look, every startup has a story. Every startup goes through just incredible amount of twists and turns and gyrations to get to where they're, ultimately lead to what ends up being their core business, what drives their revenue. We're no different.
I really like that story, man. I love that you got started just trying to help a friend.
Yeah, honestly, that's all it was.
Yeah.
I was trying to help him, and I was like just trying to understand the problem, because it wasn't my world. And I'm like, just help me understand, because I've been around startups so much, which is what you see in my bio. It's like, startups to me, when I got involved in startups, I thought about it as like, is there anything harder in business to do than to take a concept and build a product and generate revenue and be able to provide people jobs. It's like, it's like the thing that's been haunting me for years. How do you do that? And how you do it well and efficiently. And, for better or for worse, it's kind of what's driven me over a number of years to be involved in this general startup community. And the cool thing about MSPs is they're kind of no different than us. They're all just varying different stage startups, right? Trying to do the same thing we're doing, but just kind of at that next level, right? And so we appreciate that community and what their challenges are. We appreciate the pricing pressure they're under. So we always talk about we're trying to provide the best product we can at the best price we can to help these guys thrive. And if they're successful using the technology we've built, hopefully they'll tell their friends and, we'll generate more revenue so we can build more faster and create more value for them. So I kind of feel like we can help each other out.
So let's talk about the company itself. High level, quick answers should be easy. Besides you, are there any other investors, Brian?
Yeah, we have some angel investors. Not many, but that's how we funded it to date.
No problem. Development, are the developers employees?
Half are.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when you have a startup, the biggest issue that you have to deal with is that burn rate. And,
sure.
Early on, it's like capital efficiency is everything, because if you don't do that right, you're going to kill yourself, and it can happen quick.
Hey, as MSPs, we are literally the contractors, so I think we get it. I think we also we want to understand what's what,
Sure.
So, are you outsourcing to like China and North Korea or somewhere a little more stable?
Definitely not North Korea.
Okay.
Actually, we're in Latin America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're nearshoring.
Yeah, nearshoring, which we're big fans of.
That's really cool. I honestly haven't met anybody that's been successfully doing that yet. So that's really cool. I may want to pick your brain about that some other time.
Sure.
But I know that we're going to keep this one to an hour, guys. So
sure.
Hold on, buckle up. So this software, like you guys actually made this. You're not just like white labeling something else and throwing your sticker.
All us.
Right? Okay. How many employees do you have?
Well, total working on Nuvolex, we have 12 people.
Okay.
Which is probably about 20 less than what we really need at this stage. Literally, Josh hammers me constantly about more bodies. But again, we're no different than any other startup, right?
Yeah.
I
even know MSPs that struggle with just trying to find that balance. I think once a company gets to, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 employees, they really struggle with that balance because one employee's workload is such a large percentage of the overall workload. And I don't actually know what that number is where it starts to not be such a detriment. You know
right.
what I mean? If you were to lose one or whatever. All right, so tech support. I'm sure you guys have to do it. So how many tickets are you guys getting a day? What's the most like common popular type of ticket?
I'll let Josh answer that one. He's closer to that than I am.
Sure.
I wouldn't say tickets per day, but tickets per week, maybe like 2 or 3. And they'll range from just general usage, login issues. Hey, I tried to do something and it didn't work. Those types of things.
Got it. So with you only getting 2 or 3 tickets a week, that either your product is just so damn great that it's intuitive and nobody ever has questions and it never breaks, or you've got like 20 customers.
No, it's not that. We've got more than 20 customers. I think we've been doing this for so long, and our platform has been around for quite some time. That we've gone through incredible amount of gyrations early on. Because if you look under the hood of what we do, and just in the Microsoft stuff, it's a blend of Graph and PowerShell, and there's just a lot of complexity in terms of how you interact with those APIs, particularly when you're trying to do it at scale and do batch automation. And we, fortunately, because we started the company a while ago, we've gone through a lot of the pain of dealing with, like I said, the issues that you'll deal with when you're dealing with these types of APIs. So I think it's more of a product of just being around longer and the platform being pretty battle tested. And I think that's the benefit of the time we've had more time maybe than most companies in this space.
I do want to note that, like, so far of all the other 365 management platforms I've spoken with, I think you guys have been around the longest.
Probably.
And some of them by like many years. Some of them are only, a few months old. Some of them are maybe a year old. You guys have definitely been toying with this idea for quite some time. And I'm kind of excited to see the product shortly because we were going to do a demo. Let's talk about some technical stuff. I suspect a lot of this is going to be Josh. So, like, are you guys storing any data of ours, or is this really just you have a pretty interface that does a bunch of API stuff in the back end?
We do store some bits of data since we are using Graph and PowerShell for things that are PowerShell based. We tend to store that because the response times from the from PowerShell are significantly worse than what you would get from the API. We do a lot of things on demand, so the set of data that we do store is very minimal. And these would be things like, groups, list of users, things like that, very basic details, just so that you have a responsive user experience.
Sure.
You don't want to have to wait, half a minute to load like a page of users, which is what you'll see from like PowerShell and things like that.
That would suck. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that, if you're managing a client that's only got 15 to 30 users, it probably doesn't suck as hard. But, when you're managing hundreds of users or maybe even thousands of users.
Thousands, yeah. We design for thousands.
Well, right. But I just, I would say that the MSPs that are managing a single client with thousands of users is probably the exception, not the rule. You know what I mean? So that's why I worded it that way. Not to say that it's not capable, just trying to put it in terms that they recognize. Thousands? What? No. All right. So data sovereignty. I know that you're not storing anything too crazy, but some MSPs want to know that their data is only going to be stored in Azure in the States or whatever. So you're able to do that for people. And then
fully hosted in Azure.
And then so if you had a client sign up with being in the UK, you could host it in the UK for Azure. And
we do have a EU instance that's dedicated to all EU customers.
But is the UK still EU? I don't even know anymore.
I don't even think they know.
I
thought Brexit happened already. I don't know anymore. All right.
It's the instance in Europe. We have an instance of Nuvolex. So any customer in Europe and some folks in the Middle East sign on to that one. It's a lot closer. I think the data protection, with GDPR, the requirements are much stricter.
No problem. You probably are doing something for disaster recovery, redundancy, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. All done through Azure.
Excellent.
Using that Azure services.
And then, so you also have Azure. Like, are you using the service where Azure will test your backups for you and all
that? The only thing that we're really backing up, besides images and things like that, is our database, and we use Azure DB, which all those backups are automated, so it's not something that we have to really worry about.
Okay. Compliance. Everyone's up in arms because we got HIPAA and GDPR and everything else, and sometimes there's that argument of, well, my client's a doctor's office, so you have to be HIPAA compliant. But I mean, the only thing you're storing would be like employee first and last name, maybe, and what group.
Pretty much.
So that's not patient data.
Right.
Right.
So do you guys sign a BA?
Right. Yeah. So like PHI, I mean, there's no personal health information that's involved. I mean, it's like if you're at a doctor's office, you're a hospital, you're managing the employees at the hospital or at the doctor's office. You're not touching the patient's personal health information, right? So we really haven't run into that, to be honest.
So nobody's asked you to sign a BAA yet?
Not yet.
Well, I'm sure it'll come now, just because I opened Pandora's box.
Right.
Do you? Well, everything's in Azure, so I don't even have to ask about ISO 27001, SOC 2, all that stuff. So how do people log into your product? Are we authenticating through Microsoft, or okay, so it's not we log into your portal with a username and password.
We don't store any passwords for anything. You sign into the ManageX platform, the Nuvolex ManageX platform with Azure AD SSO, and we're authenticating to your tenant using Modern Auth. So we're doing certificate-based auth and OAuth too. So like, there's literally no password stored at any point in time. Not a password for you as an admin logging in, not a password for your tenant, not a single password for your users. None of that's stored. We don't touch it. We don't handle it.
All right. Let's talk about price. I think that 365 management platforms out. I mean, I keep calling yours 365 management. Eventually, it'll do a whole lot more, but they're all over the place. Some places say we charge per technician. Some places are per user. Some are per tenant. So how does your pricing work?
So it's admin-based pricing.
Admin-based.
So we don't restrict the number of tenants or users you manage, just admins.
Okay.
We think it's. I mean, look, when we first came out, we did user-based pricing, and the problem was that as an MSP grows the number of users they manage, their cost of delivering that managed service using our platform would grow, and so this allows them to have more of a fixed cost, right? I mean, it's just back to understanding how you're running your business. You want to control your cost, right? You want to grow your revenue, but keep your costs relatively consistent. And the admin-based model allows for that much better than a user-based pricing model. So I'll say we're not trying to get rich off of a handful of MSPs. We're trying to make a fair amount of money off a lot of service providers, and that's the goal that we have.
I bet I'm going to sound a lot different now, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was using the wrong microphone, apparently. It just decided to change itself.
Yeah, it sounds pretty clear, actually.
Well, that's good. Thanks. All right, so I really like your pricing model. I think it's time for us to take a look at the product itself. I haven't heard anything that scared me yet.
Yeah, that's good. Try and keep it simple.
Excellent. So I believe that'll be Josh giving us a product demo. Now, when I think about a product demo, I feel like, the most important thing for us to understand is, what it looks like and what can we use it for and why does it matter? So I guess if you can show us all that, because I know you spoke about it already, but I think if you can show us all that, we'll be good.
Sure, absolutely.
And then you are not sharing your screen.
I know. I'm
Okay.
starting. All right. Is that working for you, Steve?
It appears to be, yes.
All right, cool. I'm going to walk you through the Magix platform. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask your questions. So just to take you on a tour of the Magix platform, this is my demo portal here that's populated with a whole bunch of tenants. And what I'm able to do here is I can go from one tenant to another, single mouse click, no need to log in and log out, no need to juggle multiple admin creds or jump through the hoops of MFA trying to go from one customer to another. Just click on the tenant that I want to work on. I'm dropped in there automatically. I can see all my users and mailboxes. I can manage across all these different tabs. And as I mentioned before, we are using Modern Auth with Office 365. So we're authenticating to your tenant with OAuth 2 and certificate-based authentication. So during the onboarding process, which we'll talk about a bit, we register Azure AD apps, which allow us to use the Microsoft Graph API as well as PowerShell to communicate with your tenant. And all that authentication, all that stuff is happening in the background. One of the really nice things we do here is, and this is something that our MSP partners appreciate, is we give you the ability to basically pass off this tool to like your service desk or your help desk, and they can do all of their administration on a daily basis without actually having to have direct access to that customer's environment or their Office 365 portal. So one of the issues that we've heard time and time again is, this whole concept of the least privilege model, separations of duties, things like that. And in the world of 365 and in cloud management in general, it's hard to really slice and dice those roles where you have very clean authorization for your senior IT admins and clean authorization for your help desk admins. More often than not, we're seeing help desk guys with global admin creds, which they don't need that level of access. But with what we're doing here, we're giving you the ability to, fully manage your users, mailboxes, groups, teams, SharePoint sites, devices in Intune, OneDrives. We even do a little bit with Azure without having to be given those global admin creds. So since we're handling all this authentication in the background, it makes it easy for an IT admin to jump on here, not be given direct access to the customer's environment, and still be able to do all the administration that they would need to do on a daily basis. So what we're looking at here, this is the users page. This is where we would manage user identities, mailboxes, and licenses. We do support 2 different identity types on this platform. We can manage any users that are in Azure AD, so these would be your cloud native users and tenants. But also uniquely, we can manage any users that are hybrid, so sourced from on-premise AD, and we can do full write back into AD. So let me go into a user here, show you a little bit more about that. So this user here, this is a typical hybrid identity user sourced from AD, synced to my tenant in 365. And what I'm able to do here on the Magix platform is I can actually modify their identity fields. I can reset their password, delete their account, disable their account, and actually have all those changes right back down into on-premise AD. And the way that we go about doing that is Nuvolex has developed an Active Directory agent which receives requests from the Magix platform and then makes a update in AD based on what type of request you sent it. So if I was to reset this user's password, change their job title, that gets packaged up as a request. It gets sent to our agent on-prem. The agent goes to your DC and makes that change. And then whatever you have in place for your synchronization, whether it's the out-of-the-box Microsoft tools or some kind of third party, will then pick up that change and sync it into Office 365. So with this platform, not only can you manage, multi-tenant Office 365, but this is also a way for you to manage your hybrid identity users, as well as things like their licenses and group memberships, manage their Office 365 mailbox, all in one single pane of glass. So anybody who's doing anything with hybrid identity management, really values this piece of our platform here is the ability to do this full write back. And kind of as I was saying before, keeping with that challenge that MSPs have with the least privilege model, you're not having help desk admins, running around with domain admin creds with direct access to a customer's environment just so that they can reset passwords. That's not something you should be doing, but it's happening all over the place. But with what we're doing here, this is a alternative approach to administration that allows them to still have the ability to reset passwords, provision users, and manage groups in AD without having to have direct access to that customer's environment. Beyond being able to manage this user in Azure AD or AD, we can manage across multiple different areas for this user across multiple workloads. So say, for example, if we wanted to get into managing their groups, we can see what groups they currently are a member of. And to update these memberships, it's super easy. Just check the boxes you want to add them to, or if you want to take them out of groups, uncheck the boxes, all that good stuff. We've also extended this functionality into teams where we can see all the teams they're currently a member of. And then if we want to update the team memberships here, it's as easy as checking and unchecking boxes. Literally doesn't get any easier than that. Then we can get into managing this user's licenses, where if you want to take a license away from the user, click the minus. If you want to add a license to the user, click the plus. Choose a license from the dropdown that you want to assign to them, and then that's it, you're done. If your license is a bundled SKU like this E3 here, we'll show you all the service plans in that so you can customize that license. So if you wanted to restrict the user from accessing things like Yammer or Stream, just uncheck those boxes, click save, and you're good to go. They no longer have access to those services. So all the different license changes that you would be making on a daily basis, you can do here in just a few clicks.
So I have a dumb question just because I've never
Great.
noticed it before. I see deskless as a checkbox on E3 here.
Mhm.
Is that on like the, I'll call it the real 365 screen?
So what do you mean real 365 screen?
Like if I were logged into the 365 portal and I was changing a license on somebody,
Mhm.
and normally it gives you all the checkboxes, you know,
Right, yeah.
sway, project, all that. Is deskless an option?
It should be in there, yeah.
I've never noticed that before. What is it?
Deskless is they keep changing the definition of it, but it's essentially, you know, someone that's not using Office apps, like they're using the browser apps for everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's essentially what that is. Yeah. So you may see this tucked into OneDrive. I've seen that before. This deskless has changed multiple times since we've been doing this. It used to be like deskless apps or something, and then it's gone through a couple of different name changes. Now it's just regular deskless. But yeah.
Got it. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Now I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the data that we're looking at here is coming directly from the Graph API. So, you know, that's a good question because as you probably have seen, if you've done things in PowerShell as well, you may notice that there's more features or capabilities or just more data when you're doing things in PowerShell or when you're using the Graph API. The portal, interestingly enough, filters certain things. um, and that's why you'll see a lot more service plans here than what you would see in the Microsoft portal, because we're showing you everything the Graph API gives us rather than watering down what you see on the license side.
Excellent.
Yeah. So beyond licensing, we can get into managing this user's mailbox, starting with email aliases. Since this is a hybrid identity user, this is actually mapped to the proxy address of the user's object in AD. If your user's cloud-only source from Azure AD, this is your regular managing email aliases, adding, removing, modifying a email alias for the Exchange Online mailbox. But since this is hybrid, this here, what we're looking at, these are actually proxy addresses. And as you know, or may know, when you add a proxy address to a user in AD, when they sync to Office 365, Azure AD will see the proxy addresses of the user object, and then will turn to Exchange Online and say, hey, here's your new email aliases for that mailbox. So regardless of where your user's at, we can manage those aliases right here through the Magix platform. Then we can also get into managing things like their calendar as well as delegations. So you know, two types of forwarding, typical mailbox delegation, things like that. And then we also have Exchange properties where we can, you know, assign users to an address book policy, mobile device policy, enable things like litigation hold, all that good stuff. And then up here, we have what we call the workloads drop down. We can shift gears, go into SharePoint. Then we can view all this user's access in SharePoint from the perspective of this user. Very helpful starting point when you're troubleshooting SharePoint site access issues. And we can modify this SharePoint access in a number of different areas throughout the platform. Moving down into OneDrive, where we can see this user's OneDrive storage usage, as well as their OneDrive folders. And as we click on each of their folders here, we can view their permissions for their OneDrive folder, and we can actually add to this or remove them. So giving you more admin capabilities over this user's OneDrive than what you would get from the out-of-the-box Microsoft tools.
And there wouldn't be any way to see that in the 365 admin platform, right?
Absolutely not. Nope.
That's
you would have to go directly into their My Site and really dig into that. Yeah, it's painful. And we actually do give you a direct link to their My Site on the SharePoint side. So if you do need to dig into it, or even just send your user a link where they can access their OneDrive, it's right here for you. And kind of staying along the lines of how we're, not trying to capture anything here that's very sensitive. We're keeping the permissions here purely at the folder level. So it's not like an IT admin can go in here and then start looking at documents in a user's OneDrive. That's not what we're doing here.
Which is perfect
at the folder level.
Because I might want my level 1 guys to be able to come in here and troubleshoot and see if there's anything out of the ordinary right in here without being able to start opening up those HR files or whatever that they might be tempted to open up, right?
That's right. Exactly. So yeah, setting permissions and doing all of the management at the folder level so we're not exposing any sensitive data. And the data that we're looking at here for OneDrive, even data from the mailbox, things like that, we're not storing any of this. We're doing on-demand calls to the Graph API and to PowerShell to get this data. So I'm not storing your OneDrive folders or anything around this. This is when I pull up this user. That's when we call the Graph API and we get this data for you at that time. And then once I close this, it's disposed of, never to be seen again unless you open up the user. So we're not storing any of this. Then moving down into Intune, where we can look at all the devices that are registered to this user. So this user here is registered to one device in the Intune service, but if there was multiple, you'd see them all listed out here. And what's really cool about that is it's similar to kind of everything we've looked at so far, which is looking at this user's devices in Intune from the perspective of this user. So you don't have to go through and try to figure out what phone this person's using, what laptop they're using. We do all that thinking for you by looking at that device registration and then formulating this list based on that. And what we can do here is we can drill down on a device, get more information on it, and then we can go to the actions panel. We can push an action to the device through the Intune service. So if we wanted to do things like run a virus scan, wipe it, lock it, restart it, do those common things you would normally do from the Intune console, you can do here in just a click. And we do have support for any devices you have enrolled in Intune, not Azure AD joined, but enrolled in Intune, fully registered devices in Intune. So if your devices are fully registered in Intune, we can manage them here from the ManageX platform.
I like that. So how do I see more Intune within here?
How do you see more Intune? What do you mean by
that? Show me how I can make more Intune changes.
So that's on our roadmap. So that's what's coming here very, very shortly, is the ability for you to create Intune device profiles and things like that. So we're aggressively adding more Intune functionality to the platform here. We've spent a majority of our time around, user lifecycle management, but now we're also bringing in the device piece of that as well.
All right.
Yeah, we have a significant number of requests coming in from service providers about adding more Intune functionality. So in the next number of sprints you'll see coming out of Nuvolex and releases to the platform is going to be pretty heavy Intune.
Excellent. So I have a few questions. Someone asked, is your enterprise plan the one aimed at MSPs or is there something separate?
No, it's basically really the plans are based on how much administrative access you get in terms of management. So there's basically 3 plans: basic, pro, and enterprise. Enterprise allows you to do the most advanced function, administration on the platform. And you'll see there's a lot to the platform. We're just scratching the surface. So you'll see as Josh continues with the demo, a lot of the other capabilities that are above and beyond what you'll find in probably any of the platforms out there.
Okay. And then when will you be adding other platforms like Google Workplace?
So second half of this year, you'll start to see more than Microsoft.
Excellent. And are you adding any other tools beyond email? Like, I'm just throwing out brands for instance, like Dropbox or Salesforce or just other stuff.
The top SaaS applications in each product category are the ones we're targeting.
And are you targeting them all for second half?
No.
Okay.
That takes work, right? But you want to prioritize, right? So I think the important thing for people to realize is that integrating these other applications is not the difficult part. They all, at least the more prominent ones, have APIs. Being able to do the kind of administration that we do on our platform, like I said, you've only seen a small piece of what we've built. The platform itself is the hard part. Building that multi-tenant, multi-service management and all the automation, super complex, right? And that's what's taken us years to what we consider to really master what we call, user lifecycle management. The API integrations are pretty straightforward. So that's going to go much faster than dealing with building the core platform and also working with things like PowerShell at scale. Those things were pretty complex, and it took a lot of time. So we were fortunate, it was purely by accident. I'm not going to tell you that there was some great vision here. The fact that we started the company, years back allowed us to figure a lot of things out and get under the hood and really understand the beast that's Microsoft and the complexities of their APIs, and also what does it mean to build a true user lifecycle management platform that can manage at any scale. And, I mean, from the smallest tenants to multinational, many hundreds of thousands of users. I mean, that's how we've designed the platform to significant scale.
So one of the other platforms, they are all about that Microsoft Secure Score or whatever they've named it this week. So they've built like a baseline policy where if you deploy this policy to all your clients, then your secure score will go to 94 or something.
Yeah. No, the Simian, I mean, we do a number of things similar to Simian. They're very focused on that. So they've done some good stuff there. I mean, we're not in the business of trashing other startups. We have a tremendous respect for anybody who tries to, build a company or build products. And they have a very heavy focus in this. They're not focused on user lifecycle management. They're focused on kind of tenant level policy and security settings. So we'll continue to add. You'll see the kind of capability we already have that's very similar to what they do. They've gone a little bit beyond what we've done. But, there's so much to do for us in user lifecycle management across SaaS workloads, quite honestly. That really is kind of the main priority of the platform. But, Josh, as he gets further into the demo, you'll see some of the things we do in terms of policy and security settings. And eventually we'll, do the same or put out secure score. And how do you, if you set this profile, then, this is your secure score. So the concept's pretty straightforward, right? We'll be following a similar concept.
Perfect. Take it away, Josh.
All right, let me show you a couple more things here because we just have a short amount of time left. First one here is bulk updating users. So we have a feature here called SuperClick, and this allows us to apply multiple updates to any number of users at the same time without having to write PowerShell scripts.
Can they be across tenants too?
There's another updater called Multitenant SuperClick, which is different. The types of
Got
things
it.
we're doing here in user bulk updating are things like, calendar permissions, email delegations, bulk assignments of licenses, changing your domains. So, like, say for example, I want to have this user have editor access to all of these users' calendars. That's something that SuperClick can help us do. We can then go into delegations and we can say, hey, I want this other user to have full access to all of these users' mailboxes. And then I want to bulk assign all of my users to a Power BI license, and maybe I want to give them, dynamics, so that we can have those bulk assignments apply across all of these users at the same time. So as I mentioned before, we have another tool that allows you to do cross-tenant changes. And as you can see, that's going to be very different than what we're doing with this one. You can't apply calendar delegates or assign licenses cross-tenant. That's just not how that works.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to apply, say, hey guys, guess what? June 10th, we're going live with 2FA across all our clients. So wake up at 6 a.m. You're going to get 9,000 phone calls. If I wanted to be that a-hole, could I be that a-hole?
Could you be that a-hole with that specific use case?
Yeah.
No,
Like,
not currently.
okay. So there's not the multi-tenant SuperClick. What does that do then?
It does cross-tenant changes, but it doesn't apply to FA.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I will show you that in a bit. I just want to show you a couple more things here in the user SuperClick. So there's also bulk updates for domains, which is really helpful during migration. Security groups, Office 365 groups, bulk updating Exchange properties. So if I wanted to set litigation hold across all of my users, I can do that here very easily in just a button click. Then we have bulk updates for SharePoint sites. So if I wanted to bulk add my users to multiple different SharePoint sites, OneDrive folders, this allows you to basically specify a OneDrive user, select them, and then we're doing another one of those on-demand queries to get their folders from the OneDrive service. Drill down to the folder here that we want to share, and then we can give all of our users here either read or write access to this folder, and then we can specify multiple folders from the same user or multiple folders across multiple users. A lot of flexibility here. And then we also have bulk updates for team memberships, where we can select multiple teams here that we want to assign our users to, and that's really helpful for teams rollouts. Oftentimes you'll find yourself creating a bunch of teams and you need to add a bunch of users to them, and you have to do that team by team. But with the SuperClick here, you can take any amount of users and add them to any number of teams at the same time just by checking boxes. So this is our SuperClick bulk updater. So this makes it really easy for you to apply bulk updates across any number of users at the same time, again, without having to write PowerShell scripts. We've seen our partners use this during migration. We've seen our partners use this during new user onboarding, user offboarding, because we also have the ability to remove things. So there's a lot of different uses for this SuperClick bulk updater. And it basically gives the ability for someone on your help desk or your service desk to do these bulk updates, where they otherwise would either have to go user by user or get a senior guy involved to write a PowerShell script. So this eliminates all that, makes it easy for anybody of any experience level to do these bulk updates.
Very cool. Before we go on to the next piece, if anyone has any questions before we wrap up, please put them into the YouTube chat now.
Yeah, I've extended 10 minutes. For our next meeting, I pushed it out. So we get till we have till 2:10.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, not a problem.
All right, so before we get into the tenant bulk updating, there's another tenant-specific feature that I do want to show you, and that's over here on our OU hierarchy tab. So we do support the ability to do OU-based management on the ManageX platform, whether your tenant's cloud only or integrated with AD. You can have OU-based management for your tenant regardless of where it's from. But beyond giving you the ability to organize your users into OUs, you kind of have that similar look and feel to managing an on-premise AD. We took our SuperClick engine, the thing we were just looking at, and we put it on the top of each of the OUs here, which gives you the ability to create what's called an OU policy. And in these OU policies was everything that I was showing you in SuperClick. So things like calendar permissions, mailbox access, license assignments, or actually customized license assignments, domains, group memberships, setups for the mailbox, setups for the OneDrive, access to different SharePoint sites and teams, all this good stuff. So normally, when we think about new user onboarding, you have to apply, licenses to the users manually, set up the mailbox manually, establish all the access they need manually. All this stuff takes a ton of time and is incredibly error prone, speaking from experience. But with what we're doing here to provision a new user with everything you see here in this list, you just need to drop them in the OU, and everything here in the policy gets automatically applied to them. So when you drop the user into the OU, they automatically are assigned to licenses, their mailboxes set up, the proper domains are applied, the proper mailbox properties are applied, they have the right memberships. So you don't have those one-offs where, the new sales guy was added to all the marketing groups, or they were assigned to the wrong license, or you forgot to set up their mailbox. All these little issues that come up with new user onboarding, all that goes away. And then also you're spending zero time assigning everything here. So because that whole process, like I said, all you need to do is drop the user in the OU and everything here gets automatically applied to them. So I'm not spending time manually assigning any of this stuff. So this is a great way for you to automate user onboarding.
All right, dumb question time.
Sure.
Just because I've not played with 365 as extensively. This isn't something that we have access to normally, is it?
That's correct.
So you literally built an OU hierarchy for us to be able to visually manage who gets access to what and apply a bunch of settings automatically for us.
Yeah, we basically took the concept of group policy and have extended that into Office 365 and ultimately cloud services.
This is amazing.
Also, too, there's a couple other things to consider. If you're not using on-prem AD, you're using Azure AD, you can build one of these OU hierarchies with attributes in Azure AD as well. And then also, if you don't have a large organization, if you have a small organization of 10, 20, 30 users, you can just build an OU of one and set up all these profiles. Therefore, every time a new employee is added or removed, it's like literally mouse click, and it's just, you go from many, many hours to literally seconds.
Yeah, I'm impressed. This might be my favorite new 365 management tool. Like all of them,
you haven't even seen cross-tenant bulk updating yet.
Oh man, like all of them have done something really cool, but I'm a visual person, and seeing that OU hierarchy, that is where it's at for me. I like that.
Awesome.
It's funny. First of all, appreciate the comments. All this was just learned, spending years talking to partners, talking to enterprises, just talking to IT people, and just understanding how they manage, where the bottlenecks are, and just trying to alleviate those through automation. And we broke our pick a lot in doing a lot of these things. They really are pretty complex under the hood, and we've been fortunate because the market really never materialized until recently. So it gave us a lot of time to build this type of capability, break it a bunch, figure out how to do it right. And so the byproduct is what you see today.
I'm very, very impressed with what I'm seeing. I want to see a little more.
Great. Well, I have more for you. So let's get to the thing that you talked about, which was cross-tenant updating. So I'm over here on my tenants tab. As you see, I have 143 of these guys in here. But what we're able to do here is apply changes across our tenants. So this is multi-tenant SuperClick, as we talked about before. So the types of things, this is different than the SuperClick we looked at, which was, license assignments, mailbox delegations, group memberships, things like that. Obviously, those things aren't cross-tenant, but what we're able to do with multi-tenant SuperClick is apply tenant-level settings and policies across multiple tenants at the same time. So the types of things we can do in here, starting with like contact settings. As you know, Office 365 generates a lot of correspondence, whether it's product updates, security notifications, technical notifications. As an MSP, you want to make sure all this stuff is flowing to you or your PSA. And instead of having to go tenant by tenant and update these things and like do that 50, 60, 70 different times across all the clients you manage, you can update all of your tenants at the same time so that your notifications from 365 are flowing to the right place and you're spending zero time having to do that. Below this is settings around Exchange, like enable, disable, focus mailbox. So if you wanted to disable focus mailbox across your entire client base, you can do that in just a click. Below this is applying a outbound spam detection notification email, which is a default capability of Exchange Online. We've seen this being pointed at like a global admin in a tenant or a user that doesn't have a mailbox. So this gives you the ability to apply a email address to receive these notifications when outbound spam is detected, so you can move on that pretty quickly. When outbound spam happens, it's usually like an indicator of malware on the system, creds have been compromised, so you want to move on this pretty quickly. So it's very critical that you have these notifications for outbound spam set up properly. And we give you the ability to apply that notification email across any number of tenants at the same time, just like that. Below this is one of the most popular settings in Exchange Online, which is blocking auto forwarding to external domains. And then below this is the ability for you to apply a custom anti-malware policy for Exchange Online. Exchange Online comes with a default policy, but if you want to receive notifications when those malware detections are occurring, you're going to want to create a custom policy, which is what we allow you to do here, and have that apply across any number of tenants at once. Below this is settings around SharePoint and OneDrive, like your storage quotas, your default sharing link for SharePoint and OneDrive, whitelist and blacklist for external shares. So if you wanted to block Yahoo.com, Gmail.com from receiving external shares and apply that across, a handful of tenants or even your entire client base, you can do that here with multi-tenant SuperClick. External sharing permissions. Do you want to go so far to even disable external sharing or limit it to guest external users? Expiration times for external links. One of the most popular things that I'm seeing more and more is not making actually putting a limit on your external links. So that a external link doesn't stay active for years on end. So you can set this for the amount of days that you want your external links to be active for. Below this is versioning for document libraries and list. And one thing I do want to mention here about SharePoint and OneDrive is everything here, with the exception of quota, this impacts your secure score. So what's your default sharing link? Are you disallowing infected file downloads? Are you enforcing whitelist and blacklist for your external shares? Are you using expiration times for external links? So these are all things that will give you points on secure score, and that's something that we have built in here to multi-tenant SuperClick. Below this is the ability for you to apply a Windows 10, Android, or iOS device compliance policy for Intune. This is the first of many policies and profiles that we'll have here for Intune in multi-tenant SuperClick. So we have these device compliance policies, but right up next after this, and something that our team has actually just gotten started on, is the ability for you to create a device configuration profile cross-tenant as well, which, as you know, those profiles are massive, and there's so many different things you can modify and apply to it. There's tons of properties that you can apply to those device profiles. So having to go tenant by tenant and create them is a huge pain. So we give you the ability to create that device profile across any number of tenants basically in one shot. So you're not having to go and recreate that for every single tenant that you want to apply that device profile to. So you'll be seeing a lot more management and capabilities here around the Intune policy and profile side of the house happening here on the ManageX platform. So this is a pretty aggressive push for us.
That is really cool, man.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, another capability that we're going to be supporting for device profiles is the ability for you to go to an existing tenant and actually copy a profile. So whether you want to copy a profile to the tenant itself, like maybe you want to do some testing or replace it, so you want to copy the existing profile and create it like a duplicate and make your modifications, so on and so forth, or actually copy that profile to another tenant. So you can, basically have these, golden profiles or whatever, and then copy them out as needed, and then from there you just need to set the assignments for that profile. So once the profile is there in the tenant, you then go to the tenant, go to the profile, apply whatever type of assignments you want, whether they're users or groups, devices, etc., and then you're good to go. So that's the level of automation that we'll be introducing to Intune policy and profile management. And the final thing here in multi-tenant SuperClick is the ability for you to import custom PowerShell scripts to the Magix platform and then use multi-tenant SuperClick to run those scripts across any number of tenants at the same time. This is really cool because if you've ever had the displeasure of running scripts across multiple different tenants from a single PowerShell console, you know the pain. With what we're doing here, you can upload multiple scripts to the Magix platform, and we actually save them. So you create like a bit of a script library here on the Magix platform, and then you can select any number of tenants at the same time, pick the script that you want to apply to them, and then from there, multi-tenant SuperClick will then run that script across your selected tenants, and you're not having to manually log into each tenant, run your script, load your modules. You don't have to do any of that. Multi-tenant SuperClick does that for you. When you run a script using multi-tenant SuperClick, we're handling all the tenant level authentication through Modern Auth. We're loading all the modules for you, and we're handling all of the sessions as well. So your scripts don't need to include anything around authentication or modules, none of that. We do all that for you. So you can basically, like say for example, if you wanted to update a transport rule across multiple different tenants at the same time, all your script needs to have is set transport rule, and then whatever you want to update, save that as a script, upload it here, and then run it across any number of tenants at the same time, and just button clicks. And you can actually run multiple scripts at the same time. So there's a lot of flexibility here in how you do this, and it just makes it so much easier to run these scripts across any number of tenants, which is button clicks.
All right, so I'm pretty sure that you've got a lot of people excited. How much is it?
So the pricing is right on our website, which I know is unusual to do, but we try to be very transparent. And so if they jump on the website, they'll see all the pricing and they can reach out and ask us further questions. I'll let Josh get this one last feature in before we run out of time because I think it's important. But yeah, pricing is pretty straightforward. Go right to our website.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment just to show you role-based access because we've seen a lot of very powerful functionality. So how do we make sure that we're locking down our admins so they don't have too much power? So you can set rights on the Magix platform in 3 different ways. So you can set rights here at the tenant level. So you can do tenant level delegations. And then we can also even set rights at the individual OU level. So this creates like user scopes. So rather than giving the admin full access to all the users in the tenant Comcast, we can take that tenant level delegation down a layer leveraging OUs. So when this admin logs in and goes to Comcast, they don't get to see all the users in Comcast, just the users in these 3 OUs and nobody else. And then over here on the left side is a list of all the different capabilities on the Magix platform for this admin, and we can pick and choose what we want this admin to be able to do. Do you want them to be able to delete users, reset passwords, use that SuperClick bulk updater, manage groups and OUs, and then all of the workloads that we support on the platform are assignable rights. So you can even pick and choose on a workload by workload basis what you want to be able to provide to your admins based on what you want them to be able to do. And we also do have a concept of customer admin. So if you have any kind of co-managed IT, or if you want to give your customer the ability to log in here and do some basic things, you can absolutely do that. The customer admin is a single tenant only. We can still leverage OU delegations with it, and then you can pick and choose what your customer admin is able to do when they log in.
Are those paid?
Customer admins are paid. Yeah.
Okay. And I assume they're the same price depending on
Yep.
license? Got it.
Yeah, same price.
Yep.
Just another admin.
Yep. Our plans are mix and match, so you can assign whatever plan you want to your customer admin or to your help desk admin based on the scope of capabilities you want to make available to them.
That is really great. I like that because so many SaaS companies say it's all or nothing. If one guy wants premium, they all have to have premium. So
Yeah, that's not the case here. So yeah, we can see here in my list of admins, I've got some guys with enterprise, some guys with pro, some guys with basic. You can mix and match just based on what you want. You can essentially right size your admin staff on the ManageX platform.
And I suspect that depending on the size of the MSP, you may have a couple tier 3 guys that you want to be able to make those OU hierarchies,
right,
and be able to do the multi-tenant super-click stuff.
Right.
And then maybe you have a bunch of L1 guys that you don't really trust to do much more than what the basic plan offers.
Yeah, resetting passwords, managing mailboxes and groups and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all basic. Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what we've done.
Yeah, that's literally
great.
that's literally how we separate the pricing. Like setting up OUs and OU policies, using multi-tenant SuperClick, managing admins. That's all included in the enterprise plan. But if you have like your help desk admins that just manage user identities, mailboxes, groups, they do real basic stuff. That's all in our basic plan. But if you want to do things like with Intune and Azure and Teams and things like that, that's all under our pro plan. So you can mix and match based on the scope of services, the capabilities, and the types of things you want to restrict from your admins based on the plan.
I would recommend that I would change the names personally.
Okay.
I would change the names instead of basic, professional, enterprise. That's too confusing because I feel like my L3 guy at an MSP, I would think, oh, he doesn't need enterprise. But he does if I want him to make the OU hierarchies, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I would actually rename these to L1, L2, L3. That way they are literally showing you like these are kind of what we recommend for those 3 different levels of technicians in your organization.
Yeah, it's a cool idea actually, because it really does map to the level of admin. Like your L0, L1 guys are going to get basic or pro, and your L3s are going to get the enterprise. That's an interesting idea. I like that actually.
Someone said he was late to the party. He asked if you're going to do CA policies and endpoint policies.
Conditional access, absolutely. Endpoint policies in terms of what? Like
probably Intune
Windows
policies.
Defender endpoint, or there's so many different policies in Intune. Which one are like application policies?
All of them probably, if
all of them. We do plan on supporting a majority of them. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe not all of them, but definitely a majority of them.
Okay. And do you have any ETA or anything like that on any of the policies or conditional access stuff? Sounds like he specifically wanted endpoint manager, by the way.
Yeah, I see. We're coming out with device configuration profile management within the next couple of weeks. After that, we're getting into conditional access policies. So we're talking about a couple of months to support all the things that you're asking about.
Wonderful. ASR. Do you know what that is?
No clue.
Is that the one where you put the headphones on and they whisper to you, Shiva? That's ASMR. I don't know. I'm sure it's a policy for an Intune endpoint.
Yeah, the way what happens is we have these releases to prod in terms of functionality. What will happen is the partners that get on the platform start making requests of things that aren't on there. And we start to gather all those, service requests, in terms of feature ads. And then we prioritize them based on the largest demand. I mean, we're no different than anybody else. We have limited resources, so we can't react to everything, but we always try and prioritize based on the requests that come in and how many people on the platform are requesting certain capabilities, and just do it that way. So, I mean, we're never the platform, just to be clear, because this is actually kind of an important point. We're not trying to be a one-to-one replacement for the Microsoft Admin Portal. Not the goal whatsoever. It doesn't make sense for a million reasons. We're trying to heavily automate the most commonly recurring service requests that tend to hit your service desk, and through automation remediate those with button clicks, which you've seen how we do that.
And I think what you're doing makes absolute sense. And now that I see what he meant, ASR is attack surface reduction. So basically, he's talking about all of the cybersecurity.
It's a Windows Defender policy, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I think what Shiva is trying to say is, as MSPs, it is absolutely 100% critical that we are able to do all of this, security stuff to tighten up everything over at our clients. So obviously a great way to do that would be to be able to automate all of that through a platform like Nuvolex. And I think that's what he's hoping for.
Yeah, unfortunately, that policy is only for Windows Defender. So
Got it.
we would have to see what the appetite is, in the MSP partners that we work with, on whether or not they are even using Defender. Are they using some kind of third party like, CloudStrike, Bitdefender, etc., right? We see a lot of those being used more than Defender. So, to create a policy for Defender, it would only impact those who actually use it.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I know you have another engagement you're going to do. I want to have you back because I want to dive even deeper into this. I want to be able to answer more questions from people because I'm sure there's more. So let's talk about that soon. We can pass some emails back and forth. Thank you, Brian and Josh. Seriously, this was great today. I learned a lot, and I hope that you both have a great day.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up, and I will see you all at the next episode. Take care.